13.1b has changed, well, honestly guys, not that much, because the 10 most broken champions updated in this video that we're about to get into, yeah, you've heard them all before. There may have been some nerfs and some buffs directly to champions, there may have been some really big like system changes as far as the Grievous wounds changes go, but honestly, the Rift really hasn't changed all that much. But there are a couple of new champions in this top 10, and this data that I've pulled, this is in Master and above in Korea. So this is really representative of the actual meta and what is really OP and what you're probably going to see in pro games. But just before we do get into the video, one thing you guys have to do before you get into your next game is to download the POROFESSOR app linked in the description, because it allows you to quickly import the best rune page used from the best players in the world on the champion you're picking. You don't have to make the rune page, just one click of a button and bang, you're ready to go. But that's not all, because the app also allows you to scout your opponents, and the app will give you their stats, how well they play their champion, so you can know more about your opponent than they know about themselves. And the app also gives you an in-game overlay, so you can compare your CS and your kill participation to your rank or even challenger players like Faker. And there's a reason why 3 million people have downloaded this free application, guys. It's because it works. So get around it in Season 12. Those links are in the description. Coming in at number 10 is the only AD carry on this list. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Draven, right? Rushing Bloodthirster into Infinity Edge. There's been a lot of talk about maybe Samira doing the same, right? And all of the changes that came into the AD carry scene. But the best AD carry, well, in Master and above in Korea, is Caitlyn, with close to a 54% win rate, and that's in close to 900 matches. And for Caitlyn, the reason why she's so broken is because, well, pretty much, right? Like, there's no equal to her during the laning phase. You might have a champion like Varus who does well when he hits level 6. Ashe probably does okay as well. But if the Caitlyn player is really good, like they are in Master and above in Korea, then it's going to be close to impossible to actually win the laning phase against them. Now, what's also useful for Caitlyn is the fact that Infinity Edge, that spike, is sped up now. So as Caitlyn, sometimes you can feel as if you're just not dealing enough damage, but with Infinity Edge as the second item, especially with those buffs last season, in particular to your headshot through your passive, this has been huge for Cait, and it just accelerates your scaling, right, and your damage. Now, as far as your runes go, I know it's recommending here to take Fleet Footwork, but only take these guys into poke lanes. So if you're playing against Ashe, Karma, Varus, and Lux, something like this, right, Fleet is definitely good. Otherwise, take Lethal Tempo. And just make sure you're maxing your Q first, followed by your W and then your E. And we also made a recent Season 13 Caitlyn guide to help all of you out to actually play her like these players in Master and above in careers. So check that out if you haven't already. Now let's move on to number 9 on the countdown, which is more of a niche pick, this being Nidalee. Well, I say niche because she's only really like picked a lot in high elo, again because she's very high skill ceiling, right? But the actual amount of pressure you can put on the map as this champion is still insane. You can see that the Koreans in high elo are frothing a 53.7% win rate, and this is in over 750 matches. Now, why isn't it so good? Well, there haven't really been any nerfs to this champion, and as far as the jungle goes, you can full clear, you can level 2 gank with red buff, you can invade, you can do everything. You are so versatile. So Nidalee, if you can actually master her, she is an insane champion, and I'd highly recommend once again checking out our website for all the guides on how to play her like the best. Now, number 8 on the countdown is a little less niche, right? Because Fiora is played by a lot of top laners. So you can see that in over 400 games, Fiora to have close to a 52% win rate. Remember, this is after she got nerfed. So as far as your Q damage goes, that got nerfed, and also the vital damage in your passive, this got nerfed as well. But guess what? They are late game nerfs. The real kind of like annoying thing playing against Fiora is when you get grass procs by her Q. Even with Scorch as well, like the actual damage she does during the laning phase, and then when she gets a Sheen for a Divine Sundra, like it's just so obnoxious, and it's a big reason why her ban rate is one of the highest out of all the top laners, like in every single elo. So you can see that in Master and above in Korea, she still has close to a 20% ban rate. That's because she's like impossible to beat during the laning phase. You might be able to play something like a Kennen, right? Maybe Darius might do okay. You can see here the hard matchup champions. But honestly, like you've got to put a lot of games onto those champions and in this matchup to really actually be able to beat Fiora. She's an incredibly strong champion still has all the scaling she will need, so she's number 8. Now moving down to the bot lane here, one of 2 supports we have. So guys, if you want to 1v9 your games, there honestly like just isn't a better support to pick than Blitzcrank. In close to 700 games in Master and above in Korea, a 53.5% win rate, or above that actually. Now the reason for this, if we think about it, right, like lots of supports, I guess in maybe the majority of elos are going to be enchantresses, right? So Janna, Nami, Lulu, Sona, Soraka, etc. Now think about it this patch, right? Because Grievous wounds have been been buffed and anti-healing has been buffed, those champions that have healing, even if they don't have healing like maybe Janna, in her basic abilities, they're going to get Moonstone, right? And all of a sudden they get to a point where you just can't anti-heal them enough. Now you can do it so early in a game and so much quicker because it's 40% effective, right? The Griever twins. So for Blitzcrank, this is obviously really good, and you dominate these champions anyway. There are very few picks now that actually beat Blitzcrank, so unless you want to pick something maybe like a Leona, Alistair, maybe a Taric, so it's almost like you want to get hooked, but if you're not playing these champions, or even if you are, a Blitzcrank can easily catch you out and just snowball out of control. Just please make sure, guys, that you are taking Glacial Augment. It is by far the best keystone, and of course in your secondary tree, if you're into one of those melee matchups, high volatile lanes, you can take Bone Plating, but Nimbus Cloak and Celerity is just so snowbally and honestly really fun as well. So yeah, give it a try in your games. Now moving on to number 7, we have a champion who got nerfed in 13.1b, this being Maokai. But the tree in the jungle, well, there is another one, I guess, in Ivern. But the wider tree in the jungle is actually performing still incredibly high. Even though Demonic Embrace as well, the burn damage got nerfed, right? It has actually discouraged Maokai from being a top tier jungler. In fact, he's the 3rd best jungler still in the game according to these stats. So you can see his win rate is close to 53.5% still. And look at that ban rate for me. Over 51%. Now, if he does not get nerfed, like that balance team, I don't know what they're smoking, but bro, there's no way this champion is going to get away with this for another patch. So guys, abuse him while you can. You're still rushing Demonic, but for your actual mythic item, which you should be getting second, you can go Radiant Virtue, or you can go Leandra's Anguish. If you feel as if you need like burn damage or the enemy team has a lot of HP, right, Leandra's is a good choice. But generally speaking, I just think Radiant Virtue is still really good. And because Maokai's ultimate, like I don't know how much fighting you're going to do without your ultimate, you're pretty much always fighting with your R. So Radiant Virtue has so much value for this champion. As far as your rune page goes, you can take First Strike, you can take Phase Rush. It's honestly up to you guys. Test both out and take whatever you prefer. Now moving into the top 5, we're staying in the jungle here, guys, and this champion, well, we know that Nidalee, right, is kind of like a high elo pick. Well, Elise might be a high elo pick, but she actually does better just across the majority of ranks compared to Nidalee. That's because this champion is innately strong, right? Because of all those buffs last season, like Elise has become actual just like Giga OP, and look at these stats for me, they're actual insane. Win rate over 56% and a ban rate of over 67%. In pro play at the moment as well, she is getting banned, and I think she's going to be picked and banned a heck of a lot more because she is so powerful, right? We're seeing Renekton being picked a lot more in the top lane, and Renekton at least. It's the best combo in the game. Like, I'm just throwing that out there. And if the Koreans are banning her this much, picking her pretty much whenever she is actually open as well, that's when you know a champion is just too good. And I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that this website put her at number 5. But hey, Elise is number 5. If you need some magic damage, if you have some setup, some hard CC on your team already, Elise paired with that, oh my goodness, like it's over. Now, moving on to number 4. The best jungler in the game, better than Elise, this is Sylas. So his win rate isn't 56%, but Sylas is being played more, right? So in over 350 games more than Elise, and his win rate is still very good, 51%. And for a champion who's banned in over 36% of games, and you can see the pick rate, 22%, this is legit. Like, he is actually OP if we want to talk about the stats. But even if you've played against Sylas in the jungle, right, this champion, once he actually does clear his first 3 camps and gets to level 3, he's very good. He has gap closing in his E. He also has CC in his E. Obviously, you probably want some sort of hard CC in your team. So if you have like a Leona support, if you have a mid laner like maybe PF or a Rise, a Lissandra, something like this, top laner like Renekton again. So maybe look out for that in your games. But he counters so many things, right, because of his ultimate. So even in solo queue, even in higher elo, you can honestly probably just blind pick Sylas. You're going to get like 2 to 3 ultimates, which are going to be insane for you in that environment because people just aren't switched on in Jam Select. In pro play, it's a little bit harder, right? We haven't seen much Sylas. But in solo queue, especially in lower elos, lock this guy in. Just be very careful, guys, in the first couple of levels. You are such a weak champion. You'll be like 1 HP after 3 camps, so do be careful of that. But yes, Sylas is number 4 on the countdown and the best jungler according to these stats. Now, moving back to the top lane here, we have the second best top laner, guys, in the game right now, this being K'Sante. Now, even though this guy got nerfed, like for some reason he feels stronger. Like, I don't know what it is. Is it because everyone's taking Grass now and no one's taking Conqueror or whatever they were before? Is that the reason? Is that because everyone's taking like Ghost and TP now? Is that the reason? Is it because Jack Show's even better? Like, what is the reason this champion is so OP? Well, maybe it's all of the above with Jack Show because of the changes a couple of patches ago where they're benefiting champions, building armor, building magic resist. It's K'Sante is one of them. Also, I think this champion, his makeup, his kit, like it is just super overpowered. Unless you can play something like an Olaf who does do very well, right? Because K'Sante is ultimate and his knockback completely useless against an Olaf. Darius as well obviously loves champions who are going to get close to him. So yes, there are a couple of picks that do very well, but generally speaking, man, like this guy is too good. He's 100% going to get nerfed again. He's picked all the time in pro play as well at the moment. So K'Sante number 3 and the second best top laner. Now number 2 on this countdown, guys, the second best champion in League of Legends and high elo career is Ashe support. Now, why is this, right? Well, we're seeing Ashe support and Ashe AD carry with specific supports that are becoming more popular, right, in pro play. Now, Ashe support is just so versatile because, well, you don't really have like many hard counters. It's very difficult to get onto someone who is playing Ashe very well. Her hookshot is very annoying, right, in terms of map control. Her ultimate, of course, we all know how good that is. The Grievous Winds buffs in this patch really helped her against those Enchantresses. And then you also have kind of like a broken build, honestly. By getting an Umbral Glaive, you have so much control on the map because you're just one-shotting wards. And also when you're running Flashing Ghost, this is actually just like broken. I don't know if any of you guys have tried Ashe support with this summoner spell combination, but because of your passive, you can stick to pretty much anyone. And also the kite you have as Ashe support, I know, like you are a support, but you are going to be dealing damage with auto attacks, especially when you're running something like Hail of Blades, right? Make sure you take this rune page, by the way, guys, easily the best. So Ashe support is number 2. Just make sure you're maxing your E second after your W and then your Q last. But the best champion, guys, in League of Legends, this is Jax. And a bit like K'Sante, right? Like, yes, okay, Grievous Winds got buffed and Bramble Vest got buffed, Executioners got buffed, Oblivion Orb got buffed. Oh my god, this is so bad for Jax, but not really. Like, you're not going to heal that much, right? You're not a Vladimir or a Darius or a Sylas or someone like this, right? So because healing, like, you don't really care too much about it, you've actually bypassed pretty much every single nerf that came to the top lane in 13.1b. Also, Jax hasn't been touched since his little rework, I guess you could call it, where you're dealing more damage with your E, you're dealing an incredible amount of damage with your ultimate now, and remember, those empowered attacks every 2 auto attacks, not every 3. Also, if you guys are running Grasp the Undying, it makes your trading patterns so difficult to actually just out-trade, right? It's like Fiora, when she's running Grasp and she gets a Sheen. Exactly the same tech with Jax here, and guess what? They're both in the top 10. Jax close to a 53% win rate, Picton close to 20%, Bandon close to 24%. The champion is just outright busted. Just make sure, guys, as far as your items go after Divine Sunderer, you can go Blade of the Rune King into healthy champions, you can go Black Cleaver into a lot of armor stacking healthy champions. Even Zhonya's is recommended here because of the new AP in your kit. You can go Frozen Heart, Shojin after this. Really just depends on the enemy champions you're playing against. Just make sure you ban Jace. So those were, guys, the 10 updated broken champions for 13.1b. Let me know in the comment section any thoughts, any questions you might have. Remember to leave a like down below if you want these videos to continue. And until our next one, this has been Eeks. Peace.